Hi, Fems. This is Violet Ayala, founder and CEO of FemCity, and you are joining me today for our FemCity podcast, Business for Your Soul. I am running solo today. The beautiful Cheyenne Palma Dominguez is still on her Alaskan cruise with her family, but I'm very excited to introduce you to our guest of the day, Lisa Rickert. She is the founder of Jolie Homes. She is incredibly inspirational. She's very passionate about helping women and also helping people create beautiful space. Welcome to the podcast, Lisa.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I feel like this is right up my alley. So I'm all juiced up and passionate for this podcast today.
Perfect. Can you share a little bit about Jolie Homes? I was going to just kind of do my non-professional review. I just think the colors that you have, just even your website, the Instagram, it's just so gorgeous and beautiful. And I always say, like, when I find like colors that I love, I always say it's like lickable. All of your colors seem to be like very lickable. So can you share a little bit about your business?
Well, thank you for those compliments. I appreciate it. Jolie Home is our brand new company. We just started in January 2019. So we're all of 6 months old. And we are so excited because what we're delivering is an amazing paint that can be used on virtually anything: interiors, exteriors, floors, walls, cabinetry, furniture. But we're delivering it in a way that connects with consumers and their creative journey in a way that I feel like it's not being addressed currently in the marketplace. And so we're here to be your guide. Whether you have apprehensions about painting in general, or you need help in identifying your style, or you don't know where to begin, we have some amazing tools and resources for you to step through that creative process, from inspiration to education through tutorial content, collecting the materials or supplies that you need, painting the project, and then sharing it and celebrating this amazing work you've done in part of our community, our Jolie community.
I love that. And I love, I know we were talking offline about this. I love that you help people create these beautiful spaces, because I really feel that it helps with your productivity, your efficiency, even clarity. I know that when I'm working in a space that's not pleasing to my eye, maybe it's like disorganized, or like the colors are off, or I don't know, it just doesn't make me feel happy. It really impacts me in a bad way, where I know people might feel like it's a little silly for me to describe it, but I like to have everything like kind of set up, almost intentionally designed, so that it brings me happiness and joy, because I find that my productivity level is definitely higher, and my clarity as well. So I love that you guys are doing this, because I do feel like nowadays there's really no excuse, right, to have a space that you love, that makes you feel calm or peaceful, or whatever that you're looking to, whatever energy you're trying to connect to.
Absolutely. You totally nailed it. And we actually have a mantra, make life beautiful. And, that is a very big statement, to say, to go along with our paint product. But I too believe that if people have balance and beauty, whatever that beauty means to them, because it's a very personal, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Right. And so whatever that beauty means to them, if you create that in your personal space, you will be a happier person. And that will be the first step in, kind of helping everything else in life fall together, and staying positive and making life beautiful. So I'm glad that you share that same sentiment, because I too feel like I can't get work done if I'm in disarray and clutter.
Yeah. And I'm my life. Absolutely. And I'm a huge fan of finding things at garage sales or estate sales and painting them. So I'm a huge, I truly believe that everyone has the power to create beautiful space, What was the founding story? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to add on to that, because, upcycling is a very big part of our brand and what our products are used for. And so, believe it or not, and I'm not knocking Marie Kondo in any way, her movement is fantastic and helping to kind of spark joy with people. But what's happening, especially in other parts of the world, because we're an international brand like Australia, New Zealand, so many people are getting rid of items that collection sites and landfills are being overwhelmed with the amount of waste. And that includes furniture and items. And so I'm trying to also get people to understand that if it doesn't spark joy, paint it. You can transform these pieces. You don't always have to get rid of it. And so even if you're on a low budget, don't feel like you can't create a beautiful space with what you already have by simply upcycling it and giving it new life.
I love that term, upcycling. I don't know if I've ever heard it used like that. And my entire house is based on upcycling. We have a goal of like just really using as many items that we find at estate sales or thrown on the side of the road and repurposing them. And the house is beautiful. So people are like, ew, that's gross. But no, it's actually, I posted on Instagram. People are like, I can't believe you got that sofa for $110. Like I just got Williams-Sonoma chairs for $16 each. Yeah. So I am a huge, you are speaking my language. Yay! For sure. So can you share a little bit about how you started the company?
Sure. So believe it or not, I've actually been in the international decorative paint industry for nearly 10 years. In 2010, my husband and I, along with my brother and a very small team, we launched a different brand of paint. And I've spent the last decade as the exclusive distributor and kind of pioneer in this painting furniture movement across 4 countries. And so This is definitely not my first rodeo. But now having the opportunity to have our own brand, I can really control the vision, the product, the stylistic, changes, the way we cater to the consumer, just the overall direction of the brand. Now that it's my own, I feel like I can just deliver so much more. And it's thrilling. Like, it's amazing. It's crazy because I'm literally starting over 10 years later. But I know that we're capable of building something even greater than we did before.
Beautiful. And it's your baby. Yeah. It's always more, the vision is greater when it's your baby, and you can, like you were saying, you can nurture it, you can create it. You have the vision that's a little bit different, but more catering to individuals, and giving it that personal touch. That's beautiful. I love hearing those stories. Did you want to add something else?
No, not at all. I mean, I was just going to say, we started the company in a slightly different way than a legit startup because literally, one day we turned out the lights of the other company and the next day we turned on the lights of Jolie Home. And so, I was able to have already a flow and a team together, that we were able to just get working. But, I know what it's like to start it from literally nothing, building a company in a parking lot or on, in your home office and not paying yourself and then having to scale with employees. So, luckily I'm far more experienced as an entrepreneur as our third go round. We've had a paint company. We've had a furniture company. We still have a furniture company. It's called Ave Home, which we started in 2016. And now we have Jolie Home, which is my new baby and getting a lot of my attention these days.
I love that. And maybe in the future, Lisa, it would be great to have you come back to the podcast to talk about, because that's a great topic that comes up a lot, is that how do you launch a new baby when you have another baby also? Like, because a lot of femmes ask that question, like, oh, I have this great business, but now I have this other idea, or I want to take this business and tweak it and spin it in another little angle. So maybe in the future, it'd be great to have you on the podcast to kind of go through that, because I think that would be also great inspiration to share with so many spirit entrepreneurs, that I think it's a beautiful thing to be, right? So many of us think it's a bad thing, but I think it's beautiful when you want to launch multiple businesses. It's a great place to be in.
No, I'm happy to participate.
Thanks, Lisa.
I think I'll have some suggestions for you.
Yeah,
for all the femmes out there.
Exactly. So the other question I like to ask women like you is that, because I want to share the stories of launching a business and then the challenges. I think the more that we talk about the challenges and the struggles that we've had, the more we can inspire other women to kind of surpass that, right? So when they do come up to that block or that challenge, that they don't give up, that they realize that that's part of the journey, is to have that. What were some of the challenges that you had while you were launching either one of the businesses? I mean, you have so many. What were the challenges or hiccups that you had? And then, like, what did you do to move past them?
I think the primary challenge with Jolie is that the time in which we're entering the market is very different from what I experienced 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, I was more of a pioneer, was changing the way that people thought about painting furniture and using different products, where now, the market is fairly saturated with anything from boutique brands to big box stores. And, entering as what I would call, kind of a late adopter or a late entry, when there's tons of competition, our number one challenge is getting our consumers, our customers, to understand how we're different. And I think for any entrepreneur, if you're selling a product or a service, you need to understand what are your strengths and weaknesses, what are the external challenges, the competition that you're going to have to face. And then how are you going to differentiate your brand, to stand above the rest, especially if it's an already established marketplace. And so that's something that we're really putting a lot of attention and resources behind, is to develop all of these tools for consumers to interact with us. It's no longer about just what we're selling. It's how we're selling it, right? And what is that conversation with our customer that ultimately we're trying to inspire? There's a number of different challenges when you're starting. I would say if you're starting from scratch, I would take your time and scale. In this case with Jolie Home, I was starting with a very mature a mature employee base, in a mature company. And so it was almost like the reverse, where how do you scale back, to be able to really manage your expenses, along with startup revenue that comes with that. So we are, 6 to 8 months in now, and we've definitely found our pace and our rhythm. And I'm really excited. I mean, what we've been able to accomplish in such a short period of time is amazing. I am really passionate about our wholesale shop. So we sell direct to consumer. But even when we do that, 20% of the revenue is routed back to our local retailers. So I am, in addition to supporting all the femmes in the world and, trying to inspire women, I also am a very passionate believer in supporting small business. And so we sell through small shops, boutiques, antique stores, interior design studios, and I know the impact that technology has had on the marketplace, in the last 5 years, 10 years. And then the predictions is that the world is going to change more in the next 5 years than it's changed in the last 50 years. And so how can you, position yourself as an entrepreneur, as a brand, to be both locally focused and participate in technology in a way that it still supports, the overall vision of local inspiration and experience in small communities. So it's kind of a juggling act. And I think that anybody just starting out needs to be aware of technology and how you're speaking to the consumer, because nowadays everything is digital, even if you're driving them into local businesses.
I love that you mentioned two things that a lot of people don't mention, and I love that you mentioned it. You mentioned, I call it intentional pausing. So sometimes when you're looking to scale, it's almost like you have to pause and look at everything. And I love that you mentioned that you had to kind of you had to do it backwards, right? You had all this already overhead, and you had to kind of, like I say, and we've had to intentionally pause through our development too. And that's, it's just so that you can kind of look at everything and see where you need to make those changes. And I think that's important to mention, because a lot of times I see women that they grow and they grow and they grow, and they never did the intentional pause. And then it gets to a point where they're the funds don't now support the employees they hired or the freelancers, or, you kind of feel that. But I think it's okay to intentionally pause so that you can really look at the bigger vision and say, what are the changes I need to make? Like, how do I go ahead and adjust? I love that you mentioned that. And I loved that you mentioned the evolution, right? That there's always things that are changing, because I think that's the other thing that scares a lot of women or makes them give up when they're launching a business, is that when those, when changes happen, or like the forecasting changes, or like, like you were saying, things are going to be changing even more so in the next 5 years, I think it scares a lot of people. But if you know already, like, I wish someone had told me that when I started my first company. I wish someone had said, it's going to evolve. Your baby that you are going to create next month, next year, 2 years from now, it will evolve. And that's a natural process, and you should embrace it. Kind of like get into that flow, because instead of fighting it, or like not believing that it's going to change, I think that creates a lot of turmoil. And I think a lot of businesses like quit or stop or give up or don't see it. Like, I think think about Blockbuster and Netflix, like where Netflix came in and it just like changed the entire, because they were able to see where things were going. And
well, I know. And that's why I'm saying it's not just about what you're selling. It's how you're selling it. And I think for change, it can happen twofold. Like, one, you have your normal product life cycle. So for those listeners, that are familiar with a bell curve, basically a chart or a line that goes on a graph, where it rises, it plateaus, and then it comes down. Every product or service has a life cycle. And so you always have to be mindful as to where you are in that product life cycle, so that you can make adjustments to scale, before you start coming on the downslope. Or, you have to be making changes and adjustments for all of these external factors, that are affecting your business, like technology or, politics. Politics, believe it or not, play into, a lot internationally. And so it is constant change. I think if you embrace it and know that as soon as you have something nailed and you've executed a new strategy, you're going to be working on the next or making adjustments to that. And, when you kind of break down those barriers and those resistance to, this was my decision, this has changed, you have to be flexible, because the world is constantly changing around us. And that includes everything in business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that's something that, again, I go back to, I was 22 when I started my first company, but I wish someone had told me, oh, it's going to change. It's going to evolve. You have to always look ahead of the game, and just embrace it. Because I remember I didn't embrace it. I was like, what? What's going on? Like, why do I have to do this? So let's say there was a femme that was listening and she loves your story. She was like, okay, I get it. And she's still struggling to move forward in either, I was going to ask you launching her business, but I think now that we've talked about that intentional pause and the evolution that occurs, what about if they're like scared to like up level or to scale it? Because a lot of femmes have one location, right? They don't have the scalability factor yet. What would you say to them to inspire them to move forward?
I mean, I think, if somebody is brave enough to start their own venture, then they certainly have it in them. They have the courage. They just need to believe in themselves. And if someone is super nervous, I would say try to mitigate your risk. Understand what it means to scale. What is the financial scenario, right? So say you're just starting your own business and you don't have a whole lot of capital to put in right away. Don't quit your day job and start a blog or become an influencer or start trying to sell a product when you don't have a demand for it. Work tirelessly on weekends, in the evenings, on your lunch breaks, of your day job to start the company and get it to a place that you're ready to scale, that you've created a demand that you can start to pay yourself before you leave, any kind of other financial security or income that you may have that the current business can't support. And, in terms of going big and scaling and going into new locations or territories, I would say to always just look at the financial scenario, really. If you're going into a lease and you're not sure if it's going to pan out, don't sign a 5-year lease.
Right.
Find a location that you're going to have the ability to retract or to take that intentional pause if it's needed to keep your business going and survival. So I would always look at, how are you making these either legal arrangements or financial arrangements, and try to mitigate your risk as much as possible so that you can feel better. This isn't going to be a decision that's going to put me out. This is the decision that's going to help me grow. And if it doesn't, I can make those modifications and still be where I am today. Excellent.
Excellent advice. And I love that you mentioned when you start a side hustle, when you're starting a business, is to keep your day job and exactly what you said, like work on the weekends, work at 5 a.m, work at night, because there's no bigger stress when you don't have money to feed yourself or to support yourself. Like you talk about like creative shutdown. It feels like everything shut down. So that is not the place you want to be in. You want to double dip as long as you possibly can until you have the means to support yourself. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yep. Love that. All right. So any final advice that you have for femmes? I mean, you've given so much great advice, but is there something else you want to add, to inspire them?
Yeah, I mean, I would just leave with femmes that dream big, dream big and then figure out a way to make it happen, because that's where innovation occurs. If you start in a very safe place, you're going to have a harder time differentiating yourself and, really, I feel like being successful, financially successful with a product or service. Go big and then figure out, how to get there.
Love it. I know you mentioned that your company has a mantra. Do you have a personal mantra that you live by?
I mean, I am always like coaching myself, talking to myself, I think just to stay positive, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be stressful days and good days. And you always need to stay positive, because whatever energy you're putting out into the universe and into your company and your customers, I really believe that has the capability of manifesting, into something. And so even on your worst days, when you're discouraged, don't give up, stay positive, and just keep telling yourself it will happen. Certainly you need to work to make it happen, but stay positive.
Love it. Oh, Lisa, this is amazing. So, how can femmes? You had mentioned that your product is sold. The paint product that you mentioned is sold in small boutiques, antique stores, design places, or design centers. How can femmes find you? Just to connect further, or perhaps make a purchase.
Yeah. So, JolieHome.com is our website, and on there you can find a listing of all of the retailers and hopefully find one close to you. We are building our distribution network right now, so if we don't currently have a store in your local community, we even have an opportunity for you to recommend a store. We have a referral program. But definitely tell us where you are and where's the interest, and we'll work to get a local shop very quickly. Or you can purchase the product on our website. There's tons of tools there that you can download, tutorial information. And then I would say certainly check out our social. We're at Jolie Paints with an S. On both Instagram and Facebook. And we have an amazing community of inspirational people. It tends to be heavy on the ladies. So I don't want to call it a totally femme community, but it's a wonderful, positive, and inspiring community where people are very giving and generous with information. And we're here to help you along. So I'm ready to help guide you through your next project.
Thank you. I will certainly.
It might be floors for you. We
exactly.
It in your house.
Yeah, exactly. For those that are listening, I was talking to Lisa earlier about we're painting our subfloors just as a temporary fix until we kind of add new floors. But we're going to be painting them black, so I will add that to my Instagram. You guys have a beautiful Instagram account, by the way, like gorgeous. So those that are listening, if you want some just beautiful eye candy of inspiration with paint and design, it's definitely gorgeous. I actually follow follow them too. So Lisa, thank you so much. This was amazing. And I wish you so much success. And I look forward to having you back on the podcast for another topic.
Likewise. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.